Today, we're going to be talking about 3 really important topics which you should definitely be using inside Procreate. Today, we're going to be looking at clipping masks, we're going to be looking at reference layers, and we're going to be looking at alpha lock. Now, these 3 here took my artwork from really basic, crummy designs.
It wasn't good.
To things that really stand out and people go, how did you do that? It was by using these 3. I promise you, get in, start using these, and thank me later.
They are really good.
All right, let's jump straight in and have a look at the artwork on my iPad, because I'm going to use this as an example about how I use these 3 features. So this is the design we're going to be using here. I love this. I drew it recently. I didn't really have a plan for it. It's kind of cool. I call it the 3-layer goddess. It's super weird, but it's got this head with part of it ripped off. We've got the skull there, which is 1 layer deep, and then we've got another layer there with the brain showing as well. The design is not the important part. Let's have a look at the layers here. And at the moment, I've got the layer with the outline on it, and then I've created a new layer over the top. Now I'm going to show you how I go about filling in this piece of art and really use these 3 techniques to build a really solid color scheme for this artwork. So the first thing I want to do when I'm looking at coloring a piece like this is building my foundational color elements for the design. And the best way to do this is to color drop color onto different areas of the artwork. For this, we're going to be utilizing a reference layer. Very, very easy to do. We need to open up our layers panel. We need to make sure we have the layer selected with our line work on it. This is very, very important because this is going to be our reference. Next, we're going to tap on that one and we're going to select reference from the list. Below the line work layer here, we can see that we have a little reference that appeared below it. Awesome. This means that this is now a reference layer, and other layers above this are going to reference what's on that layer. I'll show you exactly what I mean. I already have a blank layer created above this layer. I want to make sure I have this selected, and then I'm going to go up into my color selector here. I'm going to start working on the face itself, or part of the face that's there anyway. We're going to tap back on that color selection, and then we're going to press and hold on that, and we're going to drag it onto the face area of the design. Let's give it a go. Awesome. So this may not be the exact color that you want, but that's okay. This is looking exactly how we want it to be. We're going to tap back on the layers panel, and as we can see, we have our reference layer underneath our line work, and it has not been touched. Perfect. Above that, we then have the color that we dropped on, and if we turn off the little check boxes on either of those, we can see how neither has been affected by the other. This is great, and this is why I never color drop directly onto the line work that I've created, because a reference layer is going to allow me to save that information in case I change my mind later on. This is also going to give me more finite control over the fill on different areas of this artwork. For instance, I can keep this as the goddess face there, and then I can create another layer on top of that and start color filling other areas. Let's have a look at the brain now. I'm going to jump into my colors again, and we're going to pick a bit of a magenta-y pink color. Tap back on the color selector to minimize that. And then the most important part, when I'm in my layers, I make sure I have my new blank layer selected. And as long as that's selected, I can color drop onto the area that I want to fill, and it's going to fill that. I can go ahead and start filling other areas of this artwork or the section that I want to fill, i.e. the brain here. There we go. Tap back on the layers, and as you can see, the brain section is by itself, the goddess face is by itself, and my line work down here is still unaffected by everything. This is exactly why you should be using reference layers, and this is also why every different element of your design should be on its own layer. This allows me to get back later on and work on the color and the shading and all the finite details when it comes to each piece, like the goddess face or the brain or the flowers, whatever it may be. Make me a promise right now, start using reference layers, and I promise you, you won't regret it. This video is sponsored by Few and Far Studios. Few and Far are a Brisbane-based fine art, print house and creative studio. Trusted by artists and brands worldwide. Use the code ROCKETDESIGN at checkout for 10% off your order. All right. Let's move straight along. We've looked at reference layers. The next piece to the puzzle is alpha lock or clipping masks. Now, these can kind of go hand in hand, and I'm going to show you different ways to use each of them. Let's take the goddess face as an example here. I'm going to tap on that layer, and I've got a few options here. I could create a clipping mask and work off that, but I'm actually going to show you alpha lock, which can be really, really good for making nice, fast adjustments. But the main difference here is when you work with an alpha lock, you're affecting the layer directly that you're working on. When you're working with a clipping mask, the clipping mask is reading the information off the layer below it. I'll show you what I mean in a minute, but let's have a look at alpha lock first. We're going to work on the goddess face here. All I have to do is tap on that layer, and I'm going to tap on alpha lock. Now, not much has happened here on the artwork itself. Actually, nothing's happened here on the artwork itself, but something interesting happened in that layers panel there. If we look really, really closely, we have a little, looks like a chessboard sitting behind the goddess face itself. This is perfect. That means everything that is not filled in on this layer has been locked, and we can have direct control over any fill on that layer. I'll show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to pick a bit of a different color. I might actually color select from the goddess face itself. I'm going to go back to my color selector at the top, go to classic, and we might go a little bit lighter in that color. I'm going to go grab a brush, a nice soft brush, and make sure it's nice and big over here. And watch what happens when I start to implement this on the screen. It's only affecting the parts of that goddess layer which actually had a fill in it. Again, I'll show you what I mean. Double tap to undo. Anywhere I go outside of here, nothing showing. As soon as I start to move over the actual design itself, starts to fill that in. So what I could do, maybe I can bring down that transparency and really increase that brush size and get a really nice gradient happening. Let's have a look here. Just add a little bit of a highlight in there. Yeah, very cool. I love that. As you can see, it hasn't affected anything on that piece except for what was already filled in. Let's tap back on the layers there. And again, nothing there except for the fill that was already there with our new kind of mini gradient on there. Alpha lock is really, really cool, but remember, it is going to change everything that's on that layer itself. I'm going to show you another way to do this. I'm going to do a couple of double finger taps on the screen. I'm going to undo all of that fill, get it back to the color that it was. Let's go back to our layers, tap on that layer, and make sure we turn off alpha lock. Now I'm going to show you how to use the third feature I mentioned earlier, and that is a clipping mask. Let's create one and then we'll talk about what's happening because it's the easiest way to explain it. We're in the layers and we have our goddess mask that we want to color over. Now we saw how an alpha lock colored directly onto the fill of that layer, but we don't want to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to create another layer over the top of that one, and then we're going to tap on this layer and select clipping mask. Now something really interesting has happened here. We have a tiny little arrow next to that blank layer and it's pointing directly below it. That means anything on this layer is going to work directly off the layer below it, and specifically the fill that's on that layer below it. Kind of what happened with the alpha lock earlier, but it's going to be on a separate layer. Let's have a look at what happens when we color now. Let's minimize the layers. We've still got that nice light tan color. We've got a really big brush set with a low opacity, and let's do the same sort of thing. Yeah, very cool. Got the same sort of result, but now let's open up the layers panel. Interesting. So a few things have happened here. Everything that I just colored in on that layer, it's actually showing on that clipping mask, but when we look at the overall result on the canvas, it's only applied to the fill that was on the layer below it. This can be really, really useful when you're trying to get a lot of depth into certain elements of your piece, and another reason why you should be creating new layers for every element that you create. I'll tell you exactly what I would do in this piece. We've got the goddess layer here. I would probably even create another layer for her hair. We could do a layer for the skull, for the brain, for each flower as well. And then I might even do a different layer for the flowers and the leaves. And once we've got base layers from these, we can go ahead and choose whether we want to use alpha lock. We can choose whether we want to use a clipping mask. But the main thing is they've all been created from a reference layer. And the best part about all of this, I can turn everything off, and I've still got my line work there unaffected. These three features in Procreate are absolute game changers, and this is your homework. Get out there, give this a go. Let me know in the comments if you already use them or if you do start using them and what you love to create with them, because I love to hear what you're creating out there. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button for me. It means so much to me and helps me bring you these videos each and every week. And until the next video, I'll catch you then.